Hi and hello everyone. A very good afternoon to you and all. Thank you for joining us for this virtual discussion. I'm Latika and I personally lead IAMAI's conferences and business development arm along with the digital transformation vertical with them. I will be co-hosting this session today with Abhijit Singh, Senior Product Manager TeleSign. Hi Abhijit.
Hi.
Just a quick intro about IAMAI, though I know that a lot of you all are aware that we are a non-profit industry organization. The idea of doing these multiple sessions is to bring to you what exactly is happening in the current situation and the new technologies which are upcoming that you need to definitely be aware and adopt them. Currently, we are around 338 members and we represent various industries starting from edutech, advertising, gaming, entertainment, e-commerce, transformation, and so on. If you need more details, guys, just log on to our IAMAI website and you'll have more details. And it gives me immense pleasure to thank TeleSign, who's our partner today and brings in amazing experiences with us. TeleSign connects and protects online experiences with sophisticated customer identity and engagement solutions. Through APIs that deliver user verification, data insights, and communications, they solve today's unique customer challenges by bridging the business's complex world for global communications. Please be sure that you have a lot of questions coming to them and they'll be more than happy to address them all. And before I hand it over to Abhijit, I would like to thank all our panelists who have joined us today for the session where we are discussing how mobile number based registrations and make sure turning them to intelligent OTPs. I would request the panelists to give their quick introduction and of course, just a quick icebreaker. We would love to know what each one of you are doing in the past few months now that we all are doing work from home. Inviting first is Tirthankar Datta, Senior Vice President and Head of Information Security, InfoEdge. Tirthankar? Sorry, you're on mute, Tirthankar.
Yeah. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm really excited to be part of this panel discussion. So as you mentioned, Latika, so I think most of the time I spent on this to learning how these attack things are getting changed and threat landscape, and how we can counter those attacks. And most of the time I'm spending on the data breaches which are happening and how the hackers are now targeting the different things in this kind of scenario. So most of the time I spent on this part for this COVID-19 scenario.
Wow, I really hope so that happens very soon because we all are in need of it for sure. Next up is Anuj Bansali, Head Fraud and Risk Prevention, PhonePe. Hi, Anuj.
Hey, Latika, thank you so much for having us over here. So COVID has definitely changed the way we work, and the work landscape has actually increased a lot, working on various new patterns and frauds. Other than that, I have picked an affinity for a party called BJP, which is Bartan Jhadu and Pocha over the last 2 months. I know, I'm assuming that's common for everyone.
Yeah.
That's great, Anuj. And I would really say that, in the last webinar which I was doing, somebody said that nobody noticed that while sweeping the floor, you move ahead, and while mopping the floor, you move behind. So, I can just relate to what you said. Great, Anuj. Thanks for having me here. It's a pleasure. Next up is Rajneel Kumar, Business Head Expansion Projects and Head of Products, Z5 India. Hi, Rajneel.
Hi, Latika. Hi, everyone. I'm sorry, my video is just not working, so we are doing this audio. I hope the audio is clear, though.
It's perfect.
Absolutely great.
Great, great. Perfect. No, the last couple of months have been very interesting. Of course, on the work front, thankfully, we are all part of a digital ecosystem. So work never really stops. We have always been working remotely with multiple teams across the world. So this has, kind of well played out on that. On a personal front, now finally, I have no excuse for not dedicating dedicated time in the morning to fitness. Have converted one of my rooms into like a home gym with all the equipment. I have a son, he's 13 years old, and we either do table tennis championships and have a league going for every month. And we also, add to a fitness routine every day. So that's how we've been spending our time.
Amazing. Rajneel, I have a question before delegates ask you. How much time are you spending on Z5 content consumption?
Quite a fair bit. I think the kind of content we are creating is very, very interesting. And Yeah, so I do watch all of them.
Super, that's perfect, nice. Thanks, Rajneel. Welcome on board. And we have Vikram Mehta, Director Information Security, Make My Trip. Hi, Vikram.
Hi, Radhika. Thanks so much, you and IAMAI for having me here. Hello, everybody. I think so. Being in the travel domain, things have not really been, as we would like it over the last few months. But then, having said that, I think we spent our time, building platforms, building detection mechanisms, just so that we are able to provide a safer and better experience for our customers once they're back. Apart from that, I think on a personal front, I've always been a hard rock fan. So I think I've just taken this opportunity to spend some time with my daughter learning the guitar and just singing a few on our own too.
Amazing. Abhijit, I'm not sure, but I think our delegates are in a perfect, place where they can travel, they can watch content, they can do their transactions, and of course, they can apply for jobs or find their better halves. What better panel could we ask? Thank you, everyone.
Absolutely.
And now I would like to introduce our expert moderator, Abhijit Singh. Abhijit is currently working as a senior product manager for digital identity solutions at TeleSign, and helping businesses know their customers better, address fraud and other business risks across their customer lifecycle. Uh, Abhijit has more than 13 years of work experience across the boards and across areas. He has extensive hands-on 360-degree exposure in solution delivery, sales support, including product management, consulting, operation setup, management, pre-sales, and business development. Abhijit, that's like, wow, like so much, experience. He's a total cosmopolitan and he has a global exposure wherein he's been helping customers manage fraud risks in many industries and a whooping number of across 90 plus countries. He holds multiple industry publications, including patents, white papers, reports, blogs, and concept notes. Abhijit, over to you. What has been your, last 3 months take?
Latika, frankly, I'm a foodie and I've gained a few stones myself over the last 2-3 months. And as Rajneel was saying, I mean, there was frankly no time to um, you know take care of myself. The work has increased a lot. I don't know who says that the industries have slowed down. For me, it has been a roller coaster these many months. And yeah, I mean, when I get some free time, I'm a mobile photographer also. I mean, try and click a few pictures and venture out a bit. Yeah.
Super. Abhijit, you and I will share notes post the session with Rajni on workouts. Great. Thank you, everyone. Over to you, Abhijit.
Thanks, Latika. Thanks for such a great introduction. And uh, I mean, this is a great panel, right? I mean, before even we start a session, I would like, on behalf of TeleSign, like to thank all the 4 amazing panelists for taking their time out of their busy schedule. They, as Latika said, they come from leading companies from 4 different but widely popular online domains within India, which is Fintech, travel, media streaming, and job portal. It's actually quite rare to see all of them on a single stage. So thanks a lot, panelists. And I'm sure that these brilliant minds will have a lot to say during today's discussion, and they are going to make the whole session really, really interesting and giving us, some chance to pick up their brains during and, post session, and help us learn something new from the domains they are the experts of. Now, I would also like to thank the attendees who have joined this session in great numbers, considering that the situation outside is not so convenient. So appreciate all of you joining. Now, now, for those of you who may not know what TeleSign is, TeleSign is a US-based company. It's more specifically headquartered out of Los Angeles, California. And as Latika said, it provides an API-based digital identity and engagement solutions to its customers. These solutions, which are mainly divided into verification, communication, and digital identity, helps online enterprises and online businesses and enterprises solve many of their challenges currently with their users, and also helps interact with them seamlessly but also securely. Now, if you look at TeleSign as a company, it was founded in 2005, and on the back of being one of the pioneers in the space of two-factor authentication. So if over the years you have received an SMS or voice-based one-time password, there's a very high chance that it would have passed through TeleSign network. And then in 2010, we actually formed a digital identity solution segment within our company. And then 2016, we also ventured into the communication space. In 2017, something very interesting happened where one of the world's largest telecommunication companies out there, Belgacom International Carrier Services, took over TeleSign. And then it actually helped us look at phone numbers, not just from the online enterprise perspective, but also from the core telecommunications perspective. And then as this year and the upcoming years, we are also focusing on becoming a holistic digital identity service providers, even going beyond, mobile numbers and getting into the space of IP, device, and so on and so forth. As we are quite proud of our customer base. We are currently protecting 21 out of top 25 world's largest online properties around the world, and helping them, address many challenges which exist in their ecosystem. Now, if you look at phone number as such, right? Over the years, it has actually become a very unique and universal link to identify an individual, business, service, or even things. Even IoT devices have actually started using phone numbers. So it has actually become a very ubiquitous way of connecting to a person, a user, or thing. And while if you look at people's behavior, they actually change their devices and IPs very, very regularly. But phone number is something which has become quite a constant in everybody's life. If I ask the panel and the audience, how frequently have you been changing your phone numbers? I'm sure that the answer would be, not for a few years, right? I have my phone number since last 15 years now. I think this is what happens with everybody now. And this is where it becomes very interesting for TeleSign, because if you look at TeleSign right now, we actually have phone number in the center of everything we do. And in the area of fraud and security, TeleSign actually helps flag bad events, whether it's account registration or transaction frauds or account takeovers through phone intelligence, and help reduce the pressure it actually puts at any step on the user life cycle. So if you look at the use of phone number in the online businesses, you'll actually find that phone numbers have started playing a tremendous role in customer adoption over the years. But it started as a two-factor authentication platform or method, right? It actually helped the businesses, especially banks, when they started with it, with higher degree of security, and also knowledge about the possession of that particular phone number with the user, right? But over the years, and I think India is one of the pioneers in that space, where phone numbers started being used for the onboarding purposes, because it actually helped businesses create a physical connection with the users. That's something physical which they were owning. So that actually helped, bridge that divide between the physical and the digital world. If you look at some of the knowledge base which is available around the world, you'll find that phone numbers also help increase subscription rates, sometimes as high as 25 to 30%, because of the accessibility. And also, yeah, it helps verify the possession and verification of a particular phone number. Now, with that setup for the phone numbers and the context, I would like to open up the floor for questions towards our panelists, because you are not here to listen to me. You are actually here to listen to the great experts and panelists which come from the top business domains in India. So it's an open question. Panelists Anuj, Tirthankar, Vikram, and Rajneel. These are difficult times for a lot of businesses out there. Yeah. These are difficult times for a lot of businesses out there. And the COVID situation is actually leading to every industry handling, the pressure which builds very, very differently in its own way. Now, on the fraud side, some of the studies have actually shown that the fraud proportion within the traffic, within the user base, has actually increased. Do you experience the same thing? And can you also maybe talk about some of the top challenges which you guys have faced during these coronavirus lockdown times, or this situation as such, and related to fraud?
Yeah, so I can share some experience that I had in my different companies. So it may not be with Naukri, but the online platform today is facing a bigger challenge in the form of credential stuffing attack. According to the research by the NetCA, the 87 internet users are having the same password for the different accounts, and because of this behavior, they are actually using those leaked credentials to attack your websites. For example, all the Indian popular websites, they have a huge load of data, right? A lot of PI data is with us. So they just try to figure out, whether I have that same username and password exist in my platform or not. And sometimes it happens so low and slow, it is very hard to detect this kind of attacks, because we have captcha after some certain failed attempts, but that captcha never kicks in, because they're very smart in that they have a very distributed environment. They are coming with so much of cloud service provider to compromise your user database. I think that is the one challenge that we look at, and because of this, a lot of platforms are also moving to this OTP. So one of the driving force of moving to the OTP-based registration is that you have a very password which is short-lived, like it's alive for just for a minute or two, and after that every time you have to put a new password. That is one of the driving force. If you see that almost all the digital platforms are moving to this OTP-based. Now, having said that, so OTP will not alone secure you. I think there are a lot of problems that I see from the OTP standpoint. The first one, that the deployment. So how do you deploy that technology? For example, if you're having an F22 Raptor in place, but you don't have the user manual for it, it's complete useless for you, right? So there is the advantage of using this kind of technology, but you have to also figure out how to deploy it securely. Like most of the platform today, I see they're using like 4-digit OTPs. And they're also not doing this API throttling. For example, those kind of companies are exposed to brute forcing of their OTPs, because on an average, I did some kind of bounty in one of the Indian website where I able to compromise that. So they were using a 4-digit OTP, and it took me like 2 to 3 minutes to expose and to figure out what is my correct OTP. So having said that, so I just wanted to make sure that when you are deploying this technology, you should also understand how to deploy this technology. That gives you a upper edge, right? But there is another problem which is coming to play. The moment you move to this OTP-based authentication or two-factor, in India there is no database available which can give you some intelligence about the phone number. For example, this IP address, there is a reputation, right? You can check the IP's reputation. If there is an email address, you can check whether it has been available in have I been found kind of database, whether it's already compromised or not. But what about the mobile number that you're using for registration? How do you understand that whether this mobile number already being used in another bank fraud with another company?
Absolutely.
Right? So I think that is the gap that we sense it, because there is only platform which is available which can give you some bit of information on mobile number, but it's not trustworthy. Is Truecaller, because Truecaller is completely community-driven algorithm, and there is no control on it. So anyone can make legitimate, illegitimate, or illegitimate to legitimate. I think so. That is where I think there is a need in the industry to have some kind of intelligence on the phone number point of view. Yeah.
You bring up a very, very, very good point, Tirthankar. So thanks a lot for your opinion. And I mean, when you started, I was like, okay, this is one security expert talking. So thanks a lot for your response. Anybody else who would like to weigh in onto what Tirthakar just said, and maybe would like to just touch base upon what kind of fraud levels have you seen during the coronavirus times? Did they increase? Did you see a decrease of attacks within your ecosystem?
Sure. So I think just to add to what Tirthankar mentioned, I think credential stuffing is a fairly potent attack that's been on for quite some time. From the time when um, the collection one went live sometime in Jan last year. Ever since then until now, I think any website or especially B2C enterprise that leverages email-based authentication, email and password-based combination, is being faced with an attack like that. I think, as Tirthankar rightly pointed out, it's not just implementing an OTP, but how you implement it. I would just like to add a little more color to the aspect of risk-based authentication and profiling, right? So it's not always enough to just know who is authenticating against a registered account, but also might be important to understand the risk profile of the source in general. And how healthy is that source on your website and maybe your sister companies, in order to make a decision whether that user is trying identity theft, whether that user is attempted identity theft elsewhere, and so on. And I think it can be done via either homegrown solutions or solutions that are also available out there. So I think, yeah, just sort of doubling up on that, and just to bring up a point around profiling and really understanding who your customer is, and not just authenticating the user.
Absolutely, very, very, very valid point, Vikram. So thanks a lot. So I will move ahead, because I think we have a lot of interesting questions to go through. So let's talk about India, right? And phone numbers in India. As I said, I mean, India has been one of the pioneers in the use of phone numbers, not just for verification purposes of I mean, in the transactional space, but also onboarding users on basis of phone numbers. Because Indian businesses, they consider phone numbers to be quite uniquely available to a user, by which they can identify a user, right? And this is unlike international markets, which actually saw India's use of phone numbers. Then they started using phone numbers within their ecosystem. And but do you, I mean, it could be a tricky question, right? It could also be a sensitive question to ask, but do you think phone numbers are a good way to onboard a user? How trustful are phone numbers when you compare them to email address or login IDs?
So, Abhijit, would like to take a stab at this.
Yeah.
Effectively, if you look at it, there are two factors. One is a user onboarding experience, or a commitment, how easy a user can be onboarded. And second is the prevalence of email. So if you look at India, right, the number of phone numbers is more than the population, where every person is carrying more than a single SIM or phone. That is as you defined, right, that you have been carrying the same phone number for the last 15 years. That's been a part of the identity. Versus email prevalence has never been that high in India. And as we try to onboard many more Indians to various services, the ease of carrying that as a phone number, as a login, is much better in terms of a user adopting towards it and getting to a sign-in experience. Secondly, from an experience perspective also is, if I enter a phone number and an OTP comes, I'm right there on the flow, versus I have to open up my email, I have to go and check for that, then basically enter that. So those things definitely are, from a registration perspective, a phone number is still a much better play. From a security perspective, again, two sides of it. If you look at the core emails, right, there has been a rise in lots of disposable email addresses, right? People could generate random email addresses. So you saw a lot of fake accounts, etc., being created. At least that goes away to an extent. Having said that, the identity of that phone number, now again, there are challenges which are coming up, which were not there in the earlier phases, because of numbers being churned, which is a number I surrender, 8 months or 9 months later is getting assigned to someone else, or it's a new number which is coming on and I have no clue who that person is, what kind of signal do I get. So there are definitely challenges around with it, but still, I think it's much better than an email kind of.
Great, great, great.
Abhijit, Rajneel here. I'll give
Hey,
you a
Raj.
perspective from, and everybody a perspective from OTT and what
Yeah.
has happened during the post-COVID times. As can be expected, the consumption of premium content on devices went up. The number of subscribers who are coming on to purchase subscriptions did dramatically increase. So there are a couple of things that we started to see which we needed to account for. One was the concurrency of users signing in, and the concurrency of users signing in from multiple devices, because one subscription account for most of our packs that we sell allows users to have 5 concurrent streams running. So being able to manage this was the other thing. We have been big proponents of mobile phone numbers for a long time, because from the very inception we launched Z5 in over 12 languages from India as opposed to only English.
Wow.
And we have seen that just the text by itself that is written can be a huge barrier for users. Therefore, email becomes a big barrier of people owning emails or being able to enter them. So mobile phone numbers act as a seamless way to authenticate. So sign in, authenticate, and then be able to consume. Mobile phone numbers also helps us to connect people who might have bought the various packs on a mobile phone or on a web device to be able to authenticate their televisions and be able to continue the experience seamlessly there. So these are some of the areas that, because we had done enough early work to put all these in place, we were able to seamlessly handle the large number of users coming onto the platform.
Great. Yeah, that's really good. I mean, I completely missed out on that part, Rajneel, where, phone number is also a way to deliver a service to a customer, right? I mean, if there are packs, if, you'd like to, create packs where you have collaboration with the telecom operators to charge low or not to charge the user when they are using your applications, that also can be delivered through mobile numbers. That's a really great insight, Rajneel. Thanks a lot for that. So going forward, I mean, I am a user of all 4 of your services already, right? And I can confirm that, Naukri, PhonePe, Z5, and Make My Trip already allow users to onboard, based upon phone numbers. I had this analogy about phone numbers where, or I mean, email address, or any mode by which you onboard a user, right? Where it's like an Indian marriage, right? Where in big bold letters in a park or something, you announce that, okay, maybe um, Charu weds Kavita or something of that sort, right? And you expect the people whom you have invited, people you trust, only to come and join that wedding. And but what happens is that there are always wedding crashers. I've done it in my college life. And so these weddings, what they do is that they actually bring a senior guy of the family to sit in front of the gate and see who is entering, right? That's how they ensure that they don't people don't come uninvited, or only good people come in, right? People whom they have good knowledge about, or people who are reputed or connected to their family. And this is very similar to any login technology out there, or method out there, where while it is an open game, for example, if I have a particular phone number and I would like to enter Z5 or PhonePe, if you don't have who's knowledge about who's behind that particular phone number, then it might happen that you might be able to, this person with an intent to do malicious activity can get in and can perform these activities into the ecosystem and get detected later on, right? So considering that, I just wanted to understand if you already have some way of identifying risk associated with phone number based onboarding within your ecosystems.
Yeah, so I think we do have this phone number based onboarding ecosystem. So it is not every time. So irony is it's not every time the security initiatives, because the phone number based registration also gives you a user who already verified. So you can have these mailers and targeting, and all your customer cares will having this active leads in the form of, and it is also solving the purpose of authentication problem that we had. So if you look around all the top 10 online companies, I think one thing you will find very common is that we don't have very secure password policies. I hope my panelists will agree on that, because that is how the product team always tell you the user registration should not be impacted and you should have it easy policies. People don't like if you call them that their password is very weak, because in one of my experience, one of my product manager told me that no, they don't like it if you say it on their face. That so I think that is the one problem we always face, and to safeguard that problem, we have to deploy multiple solutions in place. Like that's why your account takeover detection things comes into play. Then you have a bot manager kind of solution to identify those things. So it is also having this kind of complementary control as well. But as I mentioned, it is very important to have. So I think the adoption is all-time high for mobile number, because it's so easy. Because now they have applications having the by default feature of reading the SMS, right? Automatically it reads the SMS and put it on behalf of you. So it makes the complete life cycle very easy. So I think that is what. But I think the bigger problem, the gray area that I'm looking at from my experience, that we have very limited knowledge of the phone numbers, right? Who is behind that? There is no intelligence available for email address and passwords. So we are working for such a long time. We have over the time we have built a database around it. We have so many things working around it. Another point, that we don't share data. That there is no platform where we can, like a bank, ICICI Bank is facing some fraud from particular number. There is no framework or platform available where they can disclose that number, so that we can also take a note of it. For example, there is a framework called Stacks, but Stacks only limited to your hash, email address, phone number, and IP address. So I think the ecosystem which is coming up on the mobile number base is very good, very easy to use. But from the security standpoint, we'll look into that, how we can collaborate, like all the platforms, how do they collaborate and how do they share this intelligence of one number getting wrong, and how do we have this action in play. I think that is where I see the vacuum. And Abhijit, I'm expecting this TeleSign will come and help us to understand, because we have a true caller for all the normal users. We need a true caller for the corporates.
Yeah. We see that gap, and that's the reason why we are trying to I mean, we see that there is a gap around phone numbers in the market, and that's where we have our digital identity services built around phone numbers. And yeah, definitely we have our own success stories even in India, which I would like to cover at the end of the session. So great inputs there, Tankar. Thanks a lot. And so I see Vikram being too quiet. So I would like to pick up his brains because he comes from Make My Trip, yeah. And Vikram, you being coming from one of the leaders in the area of a business where the physical service or experience is offered to the users, right? I think security and fraud protection must be of paramount importance to you. So
Absolutely.
exactly, right. Because I can see that the implication of a fraud in your domain can be anywhere between a user not being happy because he did not get an additional pillow, or it can be him being stranded somewhere in some island, right? So being a part of a marketplace like Model, how do you ensure both demand and supply sides are clean?
So, that's a very interesting question, right? And I can probably, go on for a few hours about it, but in the interest of time, I'll try to be as crisp as I can. So, see, fraud management as a whole, right? Goes way beyond, even identity, authorization, and knowing your customer. It goes, to lens of actually understanding user behavior, user profiles, what a user is actually doing at the time of, let's say, sign up, pre-transaction, in transaction, post-transaction, and also, maybe interactions with the call center. If somebody's calling up the call center more times than he's making a booking, right? He's probably trying to mess around. So,
Exactly.
there are so many, combinations around it, which is why it is extremely important to understand and baseline what a good user looks like, right? Maybe via ML or just very basic statistical profiling, and then try and understand what other users exist apart from this baseline, and try and then study their behavior. And we've done that over the last probably a couple of years, where we've built certain homegrown platforms to do this for us, and we've gonna realize that yes, I mean, there is indeed a lot of user base out there that is probably continuously trying to find and poke loopholes in the system at various stages that I just described. It's important that as an organization, one understands first that exposure might exist. Second is to try and detect and then plug it.
Great insight. Yes, I mean, machine learning is something which is kind of become a norm, right? To ensure that you identify those hidden needles in the haystack, and people have started moving away from those rule-based systems, or they still have a play. But I know that machine learning is something which is really important, not just in delivering better services, but also in fraud protection. So thanks a lot for your input, Vikram. So next question to Rajneel. So Rajneel, not many people understand the risks which the media and streaming industry faces, right? I know about a news article which Vice published, I think a couple of years back, where they said that the latest album by Beyonce and Jay-Z attracted 300 million fake streams towards users around the world. And there was, because there are commercial implications to the business who was doing the streaming, there was a lot of fraud impact on that particular business, right? And then there are considering that these businesses are streaming ad-based revenues are quite popular, and they are also exploited by the bad guys in terms of creation of fake accounts, and malicious accounts, to inflate both streaming and ad clicks and ad impressions. Do you see similar challenges happening in Indian market also? And yeah, I mean, I'll be more than willing to learn about your experiences in India about fraud.
Sure, Abhijit. As far as security is concerned, we have been dealing with it from a very inception at multiple levels. And let me try and put it into a couple of buckets. One is content security. All the content on our platform is premium content, whether it comes from our broadcast networks or it is the hundreds of original shows that we create. So it is very premium IP which is available. So protecting that is paramount. It becomes slightly more complex as India has progressed and spread into various types of devices, both on the mobile handset side as well as on the television side. On the mobile side, we know that there are devices which are not certified Android devices, but are versions of it, and then enforcing DRM on that becomes a challenge. And similarly, there are browsers. Out of your mainstream browsers from Chrome and Safari, there are a bunch of other browsers out there which do not let you put in DRM protection on your content. And they make it, in fact, as a promise to the user that all of this content will play on your mobile because they stripped it off the DRM. They also promise to make it ad-free by putting in ad blockers, so that creates another business risk. So that is something that we have continuously been dealing with. One of the things that we have seen over the last year is that as more and more people have started using television or smart televisions to start streaming content, the DRM challenge has increased, and it has not increased from the new products in the market. It has mostly increased from people who had television sets from 2016, 2017, when we were in a completely different ecosystem, and then have moved on. Those devices are underpowered. The browsers are pretty weak, and they are not of of an Android or iOS make. So you are dealing with HTML5 based versions of devices on which you need to put on security. So that's the DRM and content security part that we continuously deal with. The other piece that we deal with is securing the accounts of users who have purchased a particular subscription service and come across that their OTP has been somehow generated and changed, and they have got locked out of their own account. So these are instances which we both fix at a user level and at a occurrence level, so that we handle it more systematically. So that's the other area where we continue to do a lot of work. And as we launch our short form content platform, HIPPY, very, very shortly, we are expecting a very large users to come on board on the platform. On that also, what the user identity will be important for is on moderation, because now the user can declare any name that he wants, but eventually you recognize him by a mobile number. In case there is some content which has been flagged off as objectionable, despite having gone through our human and AI moderation, you will need to do a takedown of that content. And if the implication is quite significant or serious enough, you would have to initiate some penal action. Therefore, knowing the identity of the user only from his mobile phone becomes a very important one, which we are addressing through various security protocols that we are putting in place. So some areas that are very particular to the OTT service.
Great. Thanks a lot for your insight, Rajneel, and we are excited to become a user of HIPPY too, and quite eagerly looking forward to that. I know that
Thank you.
the short content business, or that domain itself is plagued by fraud in terms of people trying to become famous using shortcuts by paying for fake followers and things like that. So I think you will be up for a challenge in the coming months, years when HIPPY gets launched. But I'm sure that you'll be on top of it. Great, awesome.
Thank you.
So Anuj, coming back to you, right? I know that mobile wallet itself is such a competitive market in India. You have all the big names from around the world also trying to share a pie of that market within India. And considering that a company which is seeing such an amazing run in terms of user onboarding and their key focus being on growth, how do you ensure a user who enters your ecosystem being safe, right? I mean, because most of the users you might be onboarding, or large part of it might be the unbanked ones, where you do not get any financial history or fingerprint of that particular user within any ecosystem, and that's kind of a recipe for a huge amount of risk. How do you handle that, Raj?
Yeah, Vijit. So being in a fintech space, it's always tough, right? You're dealing with people's money, and it comes with a lot of trust, right? At the moment people lose trust, they will actually not be willing to participate or transact on your platform. So yeah, so that is fairly important for us. And the only way that people can log in or create is a mobile number and an OTP on our platform today. So while from an identity perspective, right, we do not get to know much on a phone number basis, but we run our own machine learning algorithms, we run our own systems and profilings to create from a device to a mobile number to various different sets of profiles. So once a person is in the system, that is when we start acting upon that. Having said that, it's not that we will have mostly unbanked population, because the money flow movement will have to come through a KYC instrument. So it could be a debit card, credit card, or a UPI, right, which is a bank account that needs to get linked with us. So some kind of sanity does exist in terms of these factors being present. Yeah, the frauds that we normally see across is people getting a phone number for 10, and this we have talked to various fraudsters as well, right, to understand what the MOs are, how do they function out. So the SIM cards are like disposable. Earlier there was a sanity of being a KYC, etc. People get SIM cards for 20, 50, $100 these days. They create accounts, they try to perpetrate fraud around on that. So from our perspective, it becomes very important to identify who the fraudsters are that are on our platform, as well as who could be possible victims, right? So yes, so we do run our algorithms, we do run our fraud engine in real time to detect any such cases and try to minimize over there. But yes, there are certain gaps, because any system works on data, right? So till the time I get enough data from a phone number or something, a couple of frauds might have happened around on them before we take it.
Absolutely.
Overall, it's definitely a challenge around, but we are working towards building our own intelligence towards some of these things.
Thanks for your input, Anuj. So Tirthankar, you also come from a very interesting space, job market, and frankly speaking, until a couple of years back, I just did not know what kind of frauds may exist in that domain. But more and more I read about it, and having experience with some working with some customers in that space, it actually has actually opened my eyes as to what kind of frauds which may exist. Um, y- I know that any job posting, or any new employer which is onboarding your particular platform, you have a need of vetting them, right? Both job seekers and employers, and that's very interesting. How do you go about doing that right now?
Yeah, sure. It's very important for us to understand. So that's why we have this SMS-based OTP for our recruiters, so that we can have the ownership defined for that particular account. For job seeker, as you know, we already moved to this OTP-based authentication, so that, and we're also encouraging them to adopt this kind of authentication framework. First, that they don't have to remember the password, so they can come and easily get the passwords, because we had the problem that we need to remember the password. Because of that, there are a lot of wrong password typing, forward password links is going high. So based on this thing, I think we have analyzed that it's the right time to move to authentication system, which will be very easy for the user, and also it will reduce the exposure of the risk from this kind of attacks. So of course, yeah, know your customer is very important. For the recruiters, we are not having only mobile, we are also having the KYC formalities as well, so that we understand their business well, because it is very important that what is the purpose of using our platform. Because we have such an information, maybe someone is using which is not maybe relevant to our recruitment, maybe something else. So we have an internal system in place where we normally make sure that only the purpose of recruitment should be the company we're using this platform should be used only for recruitment. That is also the obligation that we have. So mobile number is one of them that we are just figuring out, and so that is how we are making sure that we know our customers well. I think I just wanted to add something with the Anuj what said, which reminds me of a movie called Jamtara of Netflix, right? I think that's a classic example that how phone numbers can be abused, and how much money they can make those guys, the young teenagers. I think that's the eye opener for many, I think, who are not into in cybersecurity field, although never face these problems. I think that gives a very good insight.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I also love that movie, Tirthankar. Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, that does give some perspective. Now, moving forward, I know that we if we keep talking, we can talk for days on these topics. But I know that there's limited time, so I will actually go to some a couple of more interesting questions, and then move forward. So if you look at phone numbers, I think there is a perception which exists in many different industries who haven't seen phone number based fraud before, is that phone numbers are only mobile or landline. Yeah. They don't feel that phone numbers can be of any other type, because that's what phone number means for them. But we all know, coming from the fraud and risk vertical, that phone numbers could be VoIP. They can be receive SMS online numbers. They can be technical numbers. They can even be invalid numbers, which are currently receiving SMS through sub tricks and some kind of industry setup which exists. And then what complicates situation is things like fraudsters are also using as Tirthankar said, disposable SIM cards, SIM farms. Sorry, Anuj said disposable SIM cards and SIM farms. Does it worry you? So that means fraudsters are able to create these accounts. This has become kind of at an industrial scale of exploiting phone numbers to onboard users or malicious user into an account, and also selling them to fraudsters on the dark web. As an individual who recently started dealing with phone number based risk, again, my question would be, does it worry you as business? I know that some parts of this you have already responded in some or the other way to other questions, but uh, but how do you deal with such an industrial scale of frauds which have started happening around phone numbers?
Sure. So, Abhijit, yeah, it's definitely a worry. From our space, from a PhonePe perspective, while that worry is on the lower side of the spectrum as of now, primarily because for us, every transaction would involve some kind of a payment instrument that has to be done. But yeah, so as we keep launching new products, as we keep diversifying into the financial services space,
Yep.
this is definitely a worry, right? So I used to track year on year, at least for the last 6-8 months is something I stopped tracking, that the Indian phone numbers for OTP were not available, right? But now a
Yep.
lot of these are free websites in which you can go ahead, create a number, use that to create an account, bypass all the restriction. Uh, Specifically, I think this becomes a problem for your freemium models, right? From an OTT
Exactly.
space to any, right, or new account registration is where I've seen most of these guys using SMSs or creating these fake accounts using these numbers.
So Anuj, do you also, if you have experience in, users using those websites, sometimes even, genuine users just to create another account on any website, just try and start using those particular phone numbers, and they don't understand how risky those phone numbers. Anybody who's going to that website can actually, generate an OTP towards that phone number, and take over their account. Do you educate your customers around use of such phone numbers in your ecosystem, or?
Yeah, so no, as I was telling, right, we haven't seen as of now too large this as a problem statement to
Okay.
start actively doing this. Our current focus is more towards educating users on the financial fraud side. So that
Exactly.
is where our current focus is.
Okay. Okay. Great. Anybody else would like to take a stab at it?
Well, I think as you mentioned that the adoption is all-time high. We are moving towards a mobile number and all those things, but our fraud system is not tuned to that as of now. We are still now depending on a lot of things which were more, compliant with email address and password-based authentication. For example, the Google is having a utility called Password Manager, where it can flag you if you're using a password which has already been compromised. But if a mobile number which is already been used in some kind of illegal activities, we don't have any way to understand whether what is the reputation of the phone number which is being used on a platform, what is the intention. So I think cybersecurity is all about, in next couple of years, is all about the intention. How do I identify the intention of a user to log into my platform? Because if we are able to identify the intention, then two benefits. One, from the security standpoint, you are able to understand whether the user is a legitimate user, and from the business standpoint, how active the user is, like whether it's a potential business for us or not. I think in order to go towards that direction, I think we need some intelligence on the phone numbers, because I can see the ease of use is there. Now so many online platforms coming, and after COVID-19, I think digital is the future. I think no one is left with the idea that this is the new thing and this is the new normal, and people will come online. So adoption will be all-time high, and most easiest way to authenticate a user today is the OTP-based authentication. So we need to have this
Absolutely.
ecosystem built around from the security standpoint, so that we can support, we can try, because the fraud using the OTP is not that prevalent, as Anuj mentioned, in the even financial, not even with us. But over the time, it will pick up, right? Because when the hacker will see that there's momentum is there, they will be there, because they are always attention hungry guys.
Exactly. And Tirthankar, I really liked the other point which you actually made in one of your responses, where the intra cross domain fraud knowledge that doesn't exist, or it's quite lean on the phone number side. And so that means what I mean to say is that, let's say if Naukri faces a fraud incident about a phone number, PhonePe may not be aware of it, right? And so it's quite easy for a fraudsters to enter cross industry ecosystems and by using similar or same phone numbers. And this is what we also see on our platforms, where there is a lot of cross customer knowledge which actually passes, which actually we feel is quite relevant for various businesses to look at, because fraudsters can actually just enter their ecosystem without any hindrance. Now, I mean, just bringing, building on that particular point, I know that I think this would be my last question. Do you think that online businesses like yourself and others could actually benefit more from the intelligence about phone numbers? And and do you think that phone number utilization in terms of the risk assessment is actually underutilized within the online domains right now?
Yeah, for sure, Abhijit. So let me tell you, the hacking. Have you heard of any recent hacker which is very famous and able to compromise? I believe you haven't. but you heard a hacking group like Anonymous. Why? Because hacking is not an individual activity. Hacking is a group action. Every people, there are a lot of certain set of people coming together. They are having a skill set to a particular field. They work together to compromise you. But as a defender, we always fighting a lone battle, right? Maybe PhonePe is fighting his own battle, Naukri is fighting his own battle, NeckMyTrip is fighting his own battle. We don't collaborate. I think that is the most weakness that we have as a defender. So we need some platform where maybe TeleSign or whoever it is, so we can also collaborate in terms of intelligence, in terms of effort, because most of the time some companies doing very good in some area, other companies doing in some other area, but we have a overall very scalable solutions by using each and everyone's strength and weakness. I think that is the ultimate way to put a very strong defense against the hacker. Otherwise, we are just fighting a losing battle.
Abhijit,
sorry.
Okay, thanks, Vikram. Abhijit, so we have spoken about security, but one of the questions that you had was of the phone number and going forward, how do we see it using? So, now that the identity of a user is only the phone number, and to make it seamless, sometimes you don't take the age, gender, name, etc. of the user. The big challenge is how do you build a valuable advertising-based business by knowing so little of the user, which is just a phone number. So that's the other big area where you can do when the user is on the platform, you can do interventions of making him compulsory declare something, but then you lose out on the power that you could have had from an email ID, where you would have been able to look it up on third-party databases and be able to do lookalikes and then create value around his interests and so on and so forth. So how do we bring mobile number also under that fold? Will be a very important from an advertising-based business perspective.
Absolutely. Yeah, wise thoughts, Rajneel. Thanks a lot for that. Anybody else who would like to, put their weight behind how important phone intelligence could be to their business or let's say industry as such?
I think couldn't agree more. And just like there's so I think IP intelligence, email intelligence, etc., has proven itself over many years and almost maybe half a decade or probably more. I think phone number intelligence adds value in two different aspects, right? So one is when you talk about fraud, when you talk about fraud at a bare metal level, right? So when you actually talk about money or currency being transferred from X to Y, phone number is the closest that you can get to somebody's real identity, and which is what I think even the government is trying to leverage to the best. And there are certain efforts that are going on at the Ministry of Home Affairs level and so on, to actually hit the grassroots of the problem, right? Which is the actual bank account, the actual mobile infrastructure of, let's say, these frauds or fraud rings. So I'll not probably disclose too much, but then I think this is the real strength of mobile number intelligence, not just from the perspective of the intelligence being shared, but also what the intelligence can end up achieving than just stopping fraud. Is actually getting down to the grassroots level and dealing with it.
Great thoughts, Vikram. So I mean, with that, I mean, I'll have to give some time for just a couple of remaining story around the slideware, but guys, you four of you have been really insightful, and I mean, there were things which I just did not know which existed in your industry and current fraud trends. And Rajni also talked about something new coming up, exciting in his side of the business. So I'm looking forward to that. So thanks a lot, panelists. Thank you, Anuj. Thank you, Tirthankar. Thank you, Vikram, and thank you, Rajneel, for taking this time with us and giving a glimpse of what is happening in your particular domain and your insights about phone number use within your particular ecosystem and how it can actually improve, right? So I will just go through just the TeleSign side of the story, and I mean, I plan to spend some time on this particular slide, but I think I should not, right? Because I think a lot has already been spoken about how phone number could be useful. We all know that phone numbers are currently underutilized, underused. They are currently being used as a verification method, which is of course very, very relevant. And okay, that's still one of the best ways of verifying a particular user, whether it's possession verification or whether it's existent verification. But there's a lot more which a phone number can actually provide about a user. Their risks or fraud insights from past fraud connections, or in terms of the current behavior they are showing, the velocity of registering across different businesses and things like that, their ownership, right? Doing contact check, doing KYC check based upon phone number. I mean, putting out advertisements based upon phone numbers and the lifestyle. There is a use case about identifying the status and reputation of that phone number in the telecom world, right? Because a newly created prepaid number is always more riskier than the old or trusted postpaid number which has been paying their bills for so many years now. Just to give you an example, there can be many other checks like account takeover checks which can be performed using phone numbers. Yeah, so where in the financial industry we have seen that same sort of activity is quite prevalent. So phone number intelligence can actually add a lot of value there. So definitely, so that point we already covered. So if you look at TeleSign, we offer our digital identity solutions which are focused on phone number intelligence towards our customers. We actually provide these digital identity solutions in both in a risk score model, which means that you get to see the holistic risk associated to a particular phone number on a risk scale, and also a recommendation from our side which says you should allow that that user to onboard or transaction to happen, or flag it, or or block it even, right? And also it helps and you get a feel of if there is a cross customer fraud which we have seen, or cross domain fraud which we have seen, and which can actually indicate a person which is entering into an ecosystem, how risky that particular user is. And also it works on a machine learning based platform, which also helps understand if there are any hidden behaviors that particular phone number is showcasing around the world. And not only in the online world but also in the telecommunications world, if the particular phone number has been part of any fraud. And not only that, we also can provide a various event driven insights. So for example, at the time of onboarding, you may be able to perform a KYC check with the operator records, right? I mean, because operators are the one which are the real owners of that particular phone number, and when they give out a particular phone number to somebody, they actually ask for registration details. So there are contact checks or KYC checks which can happen around that. There are checks about device information. There can be checks about as I said, telecommunication reputation, which can happen around phone numbers, which can help you identify how trustful that particular phone number is, right? So things like that can actually help have helped and are currently helping businesses solve a lot of fraud and security related issues in their platform. And some of these points I already covered. So the key features of our solutions involve a strong machine learning platform, let's say insight over both the online and the communication behavior of a particular phone number, not just with with the online business, but the communication part is also very, very, very important. We also have operator connects to perform a real-time operator checks. And last but not the least, we hold one of the world's largest fraud intelligence consortium, again, not just from the online businesses or cross businesses, or let's say cross customer ecosystem, but also from the telecommunications world. So if a fraud, let's say phone number has actually performed fraud in the telecommunications world, you would also get to benefit from that. And I'm not going to go through this flow in detail, but the whole idea here is to show you that before sending an OTP to a user, before inviting them to join your ecosystem, OTP is actually the first connect in a lot of cases towards with your customer, your users, right? Even before sending that invite for them to join your ecosystem, there are a lot of checks which you can already do in the background. I mean, there is no friction which happens in terms of customer experience, no additional friction. The friction levels remain the same, but even with that, you can perform many other checks to even identify the riskiness of a particular phone number or the trustworthiness of a particular phone number even before they first time touch your ecosystem. And our case studies, let's say our success stories, they prevail around the world. I mean, from US, where we actually have helped block 104 million, have provided 104 million plus block recommendations in just last 1 year, where for a for a mobile wallet company, we actually have been able to reduce their chargebacks by 52%. For for credit risk platform providers, we have been able to help them build credit models. We have also helped a multi-utility company reduce their frauds by 70% at the time of registration. But if you talk about our experience in India, I know that a lot of you or in the audience may not know what who TeleSign is, but frankly speaking, we have been verifying Indian numbers forever. In just last 1 year, we have been able to block around 40 million plus verification or phone number verification transactions which have actually hit our network. So so quite a lot of success stories we had around phone intelligence, and we have been able to help customers in various different domains solve a lot of challenges around the fraud and security verticals. So that's it. So I'll open the floor for question and answers if there are any. Let me see.
Hi, Abhijit. We have a lot of questions put up on the chat box. If any of the speakers would like to pick one of them, I can read it out. Or if they want to choose.
Yeah, I think we can do that. I'm just trying to, guys, would you like to take a stab at it? Pick one and maybe we can answer that, or let's pick up this one, right? There are various sites that gives out temporary mobile number just for registration. How do you think that this can be handled? I know that we covered that as part of the session already in terms of SMS receive online numbers and VoIP numbers, but how can that be handled? Anybody?
I think it would be best that you answer that, Abhijit.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. So the way we do it on our platform is of course through cross customer intelligence. It's very, so telecom is, as I said, is a very complex world. Not all mobile numbers are VoIP and landline, and even if you look at numbering plan databases, they may not give you a very clear picture of what a particular number is all about. So there's a lot of research which goes into identifying the real identity of a particular phone number. And we do a lot of web crawling, web scraping to understand if there are websites around the world which are actually I mean, having a new phone numbers coming onto them. They're publishing new phone numbers. As soon as they publish, we actually try and identify the risk level associated with those phone numbers, and that goes into the intelligence consortium which we have built. Along with that, a lot of research goes into identifying if there are number resellers around the world which have actually got hold of phone numbers which they are selling it as VoIP numbers and with a very low customer onboarding requirement. So they give out these VoIP connections very easily, and which are then used to exploit these online businesses. These are use and throwaway numbers. These are the numbers which you call as burners, and quite risky when it comes to online businesses. So we do a lot of research on our side to get hold of those numbers around the world. Any other interesting question which you see you should you may be able to pick it up? This is very interesting. I think, Anuj, this might be relevant to you. No
That's tough one.
matter, yeah, no matter how much awareness is spread, still many people share their OTP, and this particular behavior is the major reason behind frauds. So this is, in this scenario, is there a way to make this system more safer?
Yeah, so that is the truth, right? People still fall for social engineering. People will still fall for sharing out OTP. People will still fall for forwarding SMSs as well. The way we are trying to tackle that as a problem is we normally try to do a profile building, right? Behind every number, behind every account that we have, and any anomaly that we detect in a pattern. It could be from which kind of a location or a geofence to what time of the day to what kind of transactions that you normally do, and we tend to decline those transactions. The second thing that we are trying to come back up with is a hurdle flow which integrates, and basically it becomes another question mark on a way to authenticate, not just necessarily an OTP for you to verify your identity or verify the issuer identity of the instrument. And if we see anything, we do normally decline a lot of transactions automatically. So our systems detect it in real time, we do detect it. But yeah, uh, that is the only way we work around creating these kind of awareness is one way to stay safe. So other than that, we definitely work on our own systems to block transactions, to create issues or create an authentication mechanism for users. Other than that, we also work with industry. I've been working with MHA for some of these projects to create a negative list of phone numbers that can be shared across, right, on multiple platforms from a fintech space, definitely. So there are ways in which we do collaborate around to identify some of these things.
Great, great. Thanks, Anuj. Another question. As a user of service, example Z5, PhonePe, MMT, how do I know that my personal data profile are kept confidential? Is there any possibility of data leakage? I know a very sensitive point, right? But I think our audience would like to know that their data is safe with the online companies. I'm sure with the reputable brands like you. But would somebody would like to have a go at it?
Yeah, so I would like to take this opportunity to answer this. So I think the normal what the consumers are, so they're very curious that how do we protect the data and what are the things we normally do for make sure the data is always secure. So I think very few people understand that we have a regulatory framework in India as well. May not be like GDPR, but there is something called IT Act, right? In the IT Act, there is a section called 43A, and if you go to any company's privacy policy, they will always talk about these three things that will ensure confidentiality, integrity, and availability of data. So it is a regulatory requirement for a company to protect your data. So I think you should be always make sure that the company is following, because there is certain penalties also included in that if they don't follow it. So most of the times, company always try to protect your data at their best possible way they can.
Okay. Okay. Great. And I think that's enough, right? If some a company is actually doing their best, then this is what we can hope for. So yeah, great.
The security is all about, Abhijit, is reasonable, right? You have to have a
Exactly.
reasonable. That is nothing called absolute.
Exactly. Now, one question for Z5. How is Z5 coping up with preventing account sharing issue? Has this issue increased during COVID-19 times when more people are streaming?
Sure. So we don't see a COVID effect, at least on account sharing. While the consumption has increased, I don't think the account sharing is a real problem, which is more than what it was earlier. Account sharing, by definition, so okay, let me back it up. Account sharing, when does it work? Is when you have a single user authorized to consume something, and then you share that that login and password with somebody else to be able to do that. For in our case, our what happens is that once you buy a particular pack, you can stream on up to 5 different devices. And instead of looking at account sharing, we do a very strong device level mapping and blocking of usage beyond those permitted devices. If a user has used a sixth device somewhere, and then he will have to necessarily reset all his devices to be able to proceed forward. So those are some of the things that we do to ensure that to one particular subscription, we have only X number of authorized devices which can access it at any point of time.
Great. Nice. So that should clear off the question or the confusion which one of the audience had. Great. So I think we had time only for this one last question, and we'll have to wrap up because we are running out of time. But so just to conclude, phone number can actually be a great tool for the online businesses around the world, even in India, to actually go beyond just the possession and existence verification, which an OTP provides. And as you can see that a lot of these checks, which in terms of the spectrum can be fraud checks to even compliance check, can actually be KYC checks or so on and so forth. Even the reputation or trust checks can actually be performed based upon phone numbers even before they enter a particular or touch a particular ecosystem, and that can actually be done frictionless, right? I mean, in real time. So yeah, there's a lot of room to be covered in the phone number intelligence space. So next time you send an OTP to a user, do think about if there are ways of by which you can actually know more about the user you are currently inviting to join your ecosystem. So with that, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Abhijit, and thanks for all the panelists for giving us such insights. And trust me, we ourselves have been a victim of every now and then some or the other fraud, even from the B2C side or the B2B side. And especially, I think during this work from home culture, you can't even just go and check with somebody what's happening. I would say stay safe. You really need to listen and jot down all the insights which these guys have given. It's very rare that it's such an open house discussion on what is the best methodology and areas which they're looking at. Thanks again, all of you. I know there were almost another 12 questions which have gone unanswered. If in case it's okay with the panelists, we can definitely ask the delegates to send them a request or ping them on our social media accounts, and they can get back to you. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank
nice
you so
evening.
much.
Thank you. I would
Thanks so
just like
much.
to
You
thank
too,
my
guys.
platform
See
partner as
you.
well, Login.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you all the delegates for sending us lovely questions and attending this. Thank you.
Thank you. See you. Bye.